today we're going to look at textbook page 7. If you have the Collins International Primary Maths book, we're going to look at topic lesson 7. All right. So if you want to look at the workbook, you can always look at this part over here. All right. Workbook page 14, basically. So we're going to write down some notes based on rounding whole numbers this time. So some of you may think that this is easy. Some of you may think that it is a bit tough to understand, right? So first thing first, let us write down in your notebook over here, rounding whole numbers. All right, today we're going to look at the nearest 10, 100 or 1000 basically. But the moment you get to know how to round out to the nearest 10, you'll definitely be able to do for 100 and even thousands without any problems at all. So first thing first, before we even go through how to round up numbers, some people think like, what is rounding in the first place? So let us look at that one. All right, what is rounding? Now this one is not necessary for you to write it down, but I'm just gonna explain. So imagine if you have 37, right? 37 can be used for a lot of things. I have 37 bottles, I have 37 oranges. So just imagine, like when you're talking to someone and you bought 37 apples the other day with your mom at the market. So you're like, when your father asks you, how many apples did you guys buy? I think we bought around 40 apples, 30 apples. So we're trying to estimate around here, right? We're trying to guess in a way because we don't really remember how many that we bought exactly. So this is why people do rounding. So it can be pretty useful in real life. It is not only used when you're studying. All right. So let us look at 37 at this case. So 37, you have those place values you should know by now. We have 3 tenths, and we also have 7 ones or units. It depends on which one you use. Now, with this, we will be able to try to guess how much we want. So you imagine you have 3 tenths, right? 3 tenths over here. So let me just erase this because I'm going to be drawing a bit more arrows for you to see. So the number that can be slightly smaller than 37 or 3 tenths will be 30. And then the number that can be slightly bigger would be 40. So 37 is basically in between 30 and 40 in this case, right? So how do we know whether we want to round this number up to 40 or round it up to 30? Now, first thing first, we're gonna draw a number line, all right? Even if we don't draw it, it is still fine, but we're just gonna draw it so that some of you will be much more clearer about this. No, it's very common for people to actually be confused. Now let us draw a 0 here, a 10, 20, 30, and 40. Yeah, just nice. Then we have 37. Now, in between, since we're looking at 30 and 40 around here, right? Let me just highlight that since we're going to focus on it. 30 and 40. In between 30 and 40, we have 35. So I'm just going to draw one in the middle over here, 35. And then now we're going to put in the number that we actually have, which is 37. So 37 is basically more than 35, so we're going to put it here, right? Let me just draw it much more clearer for you. Over here, right? 37. Slightly bigger because that's the number we're going to look at. Now, let us look at 37 now. Which tens is it closer to? Is it 30 or is it 40? Now, it's already past 35, so it's actually closer to 40. So in this case, you can actually say that, I'll make it just a bit smaller. 37 rounded to the nearest 10 is 40 because it's closer to 40 than 30, right? So this example would be for the nearest 10. We're going to look at nearest 10 for this case. So when we already know which one is tens, hundreds, units, or even ones, that's how we actually look at. Now we're just gonna do one more example for you to see for the nearest 10 first. Then we're gonna look at hundreds and even thousands. All right. So let us see. I'll give you one more number, very simple one. 32. Let's just use the same number line, right? So again, same thing over here. You have tens as 30, and then one number that is slightly bigger would be, oh wait, this is still red. Let me just change that color. All right, the tens, it is still 30 over here. So you have 30 and you have 40, the same thing. Right, so right now we're gonna look at that same number line. Let me make it as a blue color so you can actually see it more clearly. So same thing. Sorry about that. 40 and we also have 30 over here. So 32 is in between 30 and 35. So I'm just gonna put it right over here, 32, right? So in this case, you can actually say that 32, make it just slightly smaller. 32 rounded to the nearest 10 is 30 because it's much more closer to 30 rather than 40. So when you are confused, just draw a number line. No one's gonna judge you, right? As long as you get the correct answer, no one would bother that much. Now let us look at all right, one more one digit number. So far I've given you 2-digit numbers and that's how you know. But one more thing, what happens when you have only 1-digit number? So just a very short example where if you can see, let's say you have this question, slightly bigger for you to see, round 7 to the nearest 10. Now this one is a 1-digit number, right? 7. So how do we actually know which is which? So let us write 7 over here. 7 we have, 10 if it goes bigger, and we also have 0. So again, we're going to draw a number line, a very simple short number line for you to see. We have, let's say, start at 0, right? Start and 10. 0 and 10. And in between 0 and 10, we have 5. Now let us put it in our number 7, which is around here. 7, right? So when we have number 7 over here, I wanted to make it, I don't want it to touch. 7, which is right in between 5 and 10. So it's actually closer to number 10 and not 0, right? As you can see. So when it's closer to 10, we can actually say that 7 rounded to the nearest 10 or 10. You can write either one depending on the question, but since my question I use this digit form, I can actually say 10 is 10. So this is how you're gonna answer it, right? The nearest 10. Just to give you a few seconds to have a look before we go to the nearest 100. Now, basically, nearest 100 is not much of a difference. It is basically the same thing, but I'm still going to show you so you can actually have a look at it. So if you want to write down a note over here, this would be more of the nearest 10. Right? Nearest 10 will be for this one. Next one, we're going to look at nearest 100. So when we are done with this, let us have a slightly bigger number. All right, just a very slight one. 6530, right? So nearest 100. Now we know 6 would be 6,000s, 5 would be 500s, 3 would be the 3 tenths, 0 would be just 0. Nothing to actually affect anything at all because we're going to look at hundreds anyways. So let us underline here and write here hundreds because that's what we're going to look at. So when we want to look at hundreds, we have one number that is the same, which is 500s, and a number that is slightly bigger than 500, which will be 600, right? Now let us draw this number line again. Again, it's fine if you don't draw a number line in the exam or anything else, but if you want to draw it, it is still okay. You won't get any marks deducted because of it. So I'm just gonna start with, let's say 200, 200, 300, 4, okay, never mind. I'll just start with 400 because I want to make the numbers bigger. Okay, and 700 just to end the number line. So in between 500 and 600, we have 550 right in the middle, 550. Now our number would be 530. You can just ignore the 6 at this point, as long as you remember to write down that number at the end of your answer, right? So let us look at 530, which is smaller than 550. So you can actually write it around here, 530. So it's actually closer to 500 and not 600. All right, if you prefer me to highlight, I would actually highlight it so you can see it much more clearly. It's nearer to 500. So what you can write is that 6,530 rounded to the nearest 100 is 6,500. This will be your answer, right? So whenever the question says nearest 100, you can ignore the thousands, you can ignore the ones or units. You just need to look at the 5 and 3, which is hundreds and tenths. So if you're still confused, I'm going to show you one more example so you can have a look at it. let's say you have, let's see, 781. All right, so 781. Now, for this case, in your units or ones, you have a number already. So same thing as just now. You can ignore the 6, and this time we're gonna ignore the 1. We're just gonna change it to a 0. Right? So again, let us write down where's the hundreds, which is 7 hundredths. Right? Wait, spelling mistake over there. All right, so the same number for 700, which is 700, whereas the number that is slightly bigger would be 800. Now we're going to draw this number line again. Well, actually, we don't have to draw. Let's just use back the same one. I'll just make it longer. Just slightly longer. All right. Right, so yeah, the same thing. We're going to draw this number line over here and use it back. So in between 700 and 800, this 2 over here is 750. So we're just going to look at that one. So 750, then our number is basically 781. So let us write basically anywhere around here. Let's say you can put as 780 or 781. Either one is fine. There's not much of a difference. It's only one small little space. So it is closer to 800. Therefore, we're actually going to say that, let us write over here, 781 rounded to the nearest 100 is 800. Because it's closer to 800. So that's why we're going to straight away go to that one over here. Right? If you have any questions, again, please don't be afraid to ask me. Now let us go to the thousands. Yes, I know today's notes are slightly a bit longer than usual. It is basically the same thing over and over again. It's just that you have to really look at the digits very, very carefully. So right now we're gonna look at nearest thousands. Right? So no matter how big the number is, let's just look at thousands. So I'm just going to give a slightly bigger number because later on, even if you do at your workbook, you see bigger numbers anyways. So let's see, our thousands would be 9. So let us write thousands over here. So by writing it down, you can actually focus more on that number, all right? Because we want to really focus it so that we write the correct numbers as your answer. A lot of people tend to get their answers wrong because they see and basically they're staring at the wrong number. And one thing about people underlining it, you can do that, nothing wrong with it. It's just that sometimes people get confused as well. So it'll be easy if you just draw an arrow and say, okay, that number 9 is the thousands. That's what we're gonna focus at. So yes, for 9,000s, let us write over here. We have, let me use a different color. Red this time. Okay, we have 9,000s, and when the number is slightly bigger, yes, we have 10,000s. It is bigger because, well, we can't put it at the same place. So let's draw our number line over here. Because the number is slightly bigger, we're gonna focus on the thousands. All right, so we have 8. I'll just use black because we're gonna look at red as our answers first. We have 8,000 over here, 9,000 over here. Well, let me give more space. 9,000 over here, 10,000 over here, right? So in between 9,000 and 10,000, we have 9,500. Okay, that's not the middle. Let me just move slightly in the middle a bit. Do forgive me if I'm not really in the middle for those people with OCD. Yes. So it's 9,500 in between them. So let us look at our number. So the two numbers we're going to focus at will be these two. The other rest of the numbers, just ignore them, make them into zeros in your head right now because we're not going to look at them. So basically we have 9,100. Let's look over here. 9,100 is basically lesser than 9,500. So we're going to write it around here, right? 9,100. So it's basically closer to 9,000 and not 10,000. So as your final answer, you can straight away tell me that 139,129 rounded to the nearest 1,000 is 13900. And you're done, right? Oh, wait, sorry. Why did I put 1 to 3? 139,000. 139,000. Right? So just ignore the rest, make them into zeros because we're not going to use them anymore. We're trying to estimate, we're trying to guess what number it would be. So let me just give you a very quick summary over here of what you can actually write down a bit more if you're confused with all of that, right? So nearest 10, I can say 150 would become 159, right? 159 would actually become 160. Would I draw an arrow over here? It'd be better if I draw an arrow, shouldn't I? Okay, 160. Because the tens is right here. So we're going to focus on that. It's closer to 60 and not 50. Whereas this next one, nearest 100 equals to, let's say, just use a different number. All right. Say it's 700. So let me just draw an arrow here. So 680 is actually 700 when rounded up to the nearest 100 because 6 would be your hundreds. Focus on that. We have 600 and 700, but it's closer to 700, so the answer is 700. Whereas this last one, you can write down over there, nearest 1,000. Let me give you a number which is, right, your answer would be 2,000. Why? Because 2,220 is basically nearer to 2,000 because we are going to just focus on the thousands over here. Right? So ignore this number because we're going to make it into zeros anyways. Right? But I'm not going to erase that so you can write it down nicely. So these are just very, very simple details for you to look at. And let me just give you a slightly more tip. What are the numbers that we can round out to? So 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, we round up. Whereas 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, we round down. Okay? Now, these are just extra, the one in blue. It is not really a must for you to write it down, but you can write it. if you really need a slightly more visual, if you're the type that actually memorizes and not the one that likes to draw number lines. But drawing number lines can actually help you because you can see it much more clearly, right? If you have any questions, again, just ask me. This would be in your Google Classroom. Rounding whole numbers, I'll be posting this up with this video. Any question, just ask me in Google Classroom or even email me. That's right in this video itself, right on top. So if you have any questions, again, I've been repeating this. Don't be afraid to ask me.